Hello, can I have a chocky nut bar? Hello?
John?
Oh, hi Mango. Had a chance to read the cause and effect script yet?
Which one? The one Mark wrote? Your rewrite of that? Or the script for the skit that we're somehow acting out right now?
So, cause and effect. Can you briefly summarise this episode?
No.
You wrote it originally.
Did
you
I?
came up with the original idea.
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
Cause and Effect is an original concept by Doctor 20000004. And this version is written by Jonathan in an hour.
I remember your version as well.
Well, yeah, my version is the one that we were going to go with.
We very nearly did go with.
Look, it'll make sense in the final edit. Cause and effect was a very early idea by Mark in sort of 2012.
I was actually watching, was it Series 2 when they actually find that wormhole kind of thing? They go back in time.
Stasis leak.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I think I was watching that.
He wanted Rimmer and Lister to swap places. That was all he said at the start. He sent me in a Roblox private message.
I was like, Red Dwarf Roblox could do an episode like this.
And I said, that's actually quite interesting. That's actually quite sort of a Red Dwarfish idea, but you'd have to explain why they swap places. And his response was Kryten could have been messing with the controls.
Right.
That episode didn't get written for a very long time, and then we went back to it in 2014 and combined it with a very recent idea that we had where Rimmer would see that this thing's going wrong with the game and he'd think, oh, I can improve this, I can fix this, so he'd go and try and fix it without Holly or Kryten knowing, and he'd be unsuccessful or whatever. So the two ideas were combined, and a little while afterwards Mark started writing it, and he said, when I finished it, can you go through it and, I don't know, make lines clearer, more logical, add a few jokes in? So I said, yeah, sure, because I'm used to doing that with stuff like Blue Dwarf. Oh, that's just typical. Here we are scheduled to film this afternoon, and someone's managed to tear a rift in the space-time continuum in the very corridor we're using.
But how would they manage that?
Someone has clearly built, badly, some kind of portal-cutting machine, and for whatever reason, they've used it at my sets.
That vending machine you were trying to use.
Hello, can I have a chocky nut bar?
I knew it looked suspiciously like it had been converted very crudely to open portals.
But why would anyone want to do that? What would they possibly want to see at the other side of that portal?
Should we go through it and see for ourselves?
You must be joking. We don't know what lies at the other end. Could be anything, some hideous alternate reality. Even the old Red Dwarf Roblox sets. I tell you what, I'll go get that vending machine and see if we can use it to close the portal. Then we can start filming. The idea was that Rimmer was going to, and the idea ends up being that Rimmer was going to go into the developer console and try and fix problems with the game, and he'd be successful in it. So the crew would be thinking Kryten and Holly are doing it. And then when Rimmer realizes, he thinks, okay, the crew aren't suspicious, they're quite happy. So he goes and improves his experience by turning himself human. And in doing so, it has to swap a few values around, and he doesn't really take much notice. And so what he actually does is he changes the backstory, the history of him and Lister, so that he survives the radiation leak and Lister dies. And so I was genuinely quite excited about how Mark would explain how they find out.
Whee!
And I get cause and effect back in the back end of August, beginning of September. And I started crying. I jumped straight into the script thinking there'd be no problems, so I started adding jokes in and making lines a bit clearer, and then Mark introduces the concept of flashbacks as being sort of virtual memories that the players can experience. And I thought, yeah, that's an interesting idea. That sounds a bit dwarfish, like thanks to the memory kind of thing. And it was clear that they would go into the flashback to see what the history is now. Unfortunately, that script no longer exists, but around the time I did make a note of what I interpreted the ending to be. So, Rimmer and Lister, as in current Rimmer and Lister, are acting as past Rimmer and Lister. So, past Rimmer is now a hologram, and past Lister is now about 25 years older. Which I could kind of understand because they're experiencing and living the flashback, but it still doesn't explain why Rimmer's a hologram. Peterson, the catering officer, then arrives and turns to Rimmer, hologram Rimmer, and asks if he's keeping a cat. Rimmer immediately says yes. Peterson then tells him to come with him so he can put him into ice. He addresses Kryten. He says to Kryten, "Who are you?" Kryten says, "I am a mechanoid." And he points to Cat and says, "And Cat is this is my mechanic." And Cat goes, "What? Ow, oh yeah, that's what I am." Peterson disappears, and the crew are trying to work out what's happened.
Hey John, look at this. It's a brick-by-brick DVD.
How fortuitous and, dare I say, implausible is that? There was this pretty much perfect setup to the ending, and I was so excited about what the ending would be. And then it turns out to be, the crew seemed to be really confused, like, what's happened? And I'm thinking, no, it's obvious. No roles have been swapped. Nothing has changed in history. You've literally put Rimmer's name over Lister's and Lister's name over Rimmer. They've just swapped names. So I messaged Mark while he was offline so that he'd get it when he got back. Said, "Okay, I've gone through it, and the ending is painful. So what you've got now is the unedited version of yours, the edited up until Act 3 of yours, which is edited by me, and I'm going to write an alternative script. I don't care if you use the alternative script, I don't care if you take the ending from the alternative script, I don't care if you use your original one. I just want to know that I've done my best in trying to make it work." Anyway, now that we've answered the question as to where the portal goes, let's leave and get it closed so we can start filming.
And hopefully get out before anyone comes to see the damage we've caused.
What damage? That was like that when I arrived. Can't speak for you, obviously.
Yeah, it was like that when I got here too. Terrible service. I'm never shopping here again.
Compared to my original draft, I thought yours was much better. It brought more comedy in it, because I've noticed that when I write something, I don't put comedy in it.
And then silently, his script was removed, and mine was the final script that we were going to go with.
And I think I think this version is considerably better than the first version.
Oh yeah, I have a question about it.
Go ahead.
Rimmer changes game stuff, and so he's not a hologram.
Rimmer plays with settings.
So Lister's a hologram instead, and Rimmer's alive, and a human, and alive.
The crew go and see what the fuck's happened in the past of the game. Through flashbacks and shit. Right there.
And then they go into flashbacks, and the future Rimmer, or the present Rimmer, tells the flashback Rimmer to go into stasis, to survive or something. Yeah.
He did explain a couple of days later that he did it as a sort of pastiche of thanks for the memory. But it wasn't really explained that well in the script, so no wonder I was confused.
And then give Rimmer a bollocking.
You're starting to sound like Mark.
I feel it was a good concept.
I changed the reason why they went back in time. I mean, it was a pretty poor reason, if I'm honest.
It was just for convenience, really.
Yeah, I changed that.
I think the dialogue's okay. The plot, yes. And I think it was overall a decent episode.
Sort of. It was almost kind of bottle episode, really, because it doesn't take place outside of Red Dwarf. Although Mark's version did. They ended up on Starbug or something. And all they did on Starbug was find out that Lister was a hologram, and then they went back to the drive room. So I was thinking, why are you on Starbug? What's the point? I think there was a derelict that was brought into it, and then the punchline of the episode was Holly saying, "Now, what about that derelict?" And hilarity ensued.
I'd probably change the time from series 1 and 2, which is a meh series. I mean, the later series got a lot better, to something along the lines of 5.
But yeah, I can respect cause and effect for what it was trying to be. I think that is a problem with a lot of the Red Dwarf Roblox scripts. We're not professional writers, so we know exactly what we want, but we can't quite reach it. And that is a problem with all of the episodes.
I changed stuff like that. I mean, not much I could have done with the Series 1 and 2 set because it'd already been done. I mean, I quite like building Series 1 and 2s. I've done it multiple times now.
My ending had Cat interfering with the developer console as the punchline, where Rimmer and Lister are in the bunk room there, relieved that Rimmer is no longer allowed to tamper with the console, so everything is restored to normal, and Kryten bursts in and says, sorry to interrupt you, sirs, but I think you should come and look at this. And then they go into the developer console and they find that Cat has been interfering with it.
Cat brings some female cats on board.
He's got one at either side. And that was the ending I went with as a punchline to the episode, as a final closing gag.